All right, join us now on Drive the Lane, ESPN college basketball analyst, former coach, but most importantly, our friend, Seth Greenberg. Coach, welcome to the show.
It's good being with you guys. Here's the two questions I have for you.
Well, it's starting fast.
All right, two questions here. Question number one is, how come, Andrew, it's Drive the Lane like he's some big shot? I mean, seriously, he's a big shot. He's like, that's like saying courtside with Greenberg, screw Dockich.
I mean, is that wrong to do?
I mean, I wouldn't do it to my podcast partner. I mean, I'm just an observation.
Well, we're getting ready. Well, originally, I came to Joey with this $1 million idea. And, this was back when I only had 300 Twitter followers. I'm up to about 650 now. So this was way back then. I said, Joe, how about a little Joey Lane tell-all? We call it Drive the Lane. Sell it to one of those Ohio State, outlets and make a couple $100 each. Little did I know that we'd be interviewing you, however many months later. So if I could go back in time, I would name it Drive the Andrew.
Exactly. Now, the second question is even more important. Now, Joe, being that, you're basically, just a has-been,
Correct.
Hopefully you get a couple free tickets every once in a while. There's one thing like the big-time schools, and I consider Ohio State a Final Four program this year. We'll get into that later. But the big-time schools, the former players, every year get a big bag of gear. All right? Like a big bag of gear, like, travel sweats, half zips, long sleeve dry fits, couple, maybe at least one pair of shoes, maybe a winter, the old winter coat you got every year. My question is, but the way it is at Duke, this is what Jay Will tells me, there's like 3 different levels. Like when Jay Will was out of college basketball, so he didn't have to say that Duke was going to lose a game, then they got all pissed off. He got, now he gets the good package. When he was working in game day, because every once in a while he'd have to have an opinion that maybe was negative, he got like a couple of dry fits and, maybe a pair of shorts. I want to know what your package is from Ohio State.
So it's a great question. Here's, to my knowledge, and I could not know everything. I know it's hard to believe, but I probably don't know everything about this topic. To my knowledge, the way it kind of operates is when you go back and you see the equipment manager and you hang out, you get taken care of. And that's what's happened to me. Is when I went back, like if I went back for a game, they give me a sweatshirt, they give me a couple long sleeve shirts. I got my fair share of shoes. They're still the shoes that they have there now are the shoes that I had. So I don't need those now. Lord knows I do not need more Ohio State shoes. But I could be totally wrong and just be missing out on a bunch of care packages. Jared Sullinger, he's getting whatever he wants. There's no doubt about that. I am not going to sit here and say that I should be getting,
what we do get, which, for me, I get these benefits, just as much as Joey. We get Coach Holtman's been on the show twice. Kyle Young, Dwayne Washington. Those are some perks right there.
That's good. Now here's the last question, and I'll let you answer the questions.
Yeah, this is our show. But you go ahead.
Do you guys get a better deal? Do you get a better deal? And I hope, by the way, you take care of your boy Andrew with some cotton. But do you have a better deal than I don't know, a guy like Andrew Dockich, who was there for 7 months and had the longest senior night speech in the history of life?
Yeah, it's a little bit, if we could backtrack, if he doesn't make that shot against Michigan State from half court, he might not get anything, But because he ends up having this shot that is replayed every single time Ohio State plays a basketball game, everyone thinks he's Aaron Kraft, basically. Everyone gets him confused with Aaron Kraft, So, I don't know. When we were in school together and we would go to a local high school game, everyone knows Dockich, and then only the real fans know me, So it's a little bit flip-flopped in the sense of, the only thing that's different is that Dockich was a GA for 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
So he was getting all the gear then. If I want to just put Dockich on blast right now, he was staying on my couch this summer, and he was taking my polos to go to work when he is getting all of them from Ohio State, and I'm not. So I don't know. That dude doesn't do gear. He's not swaggy. He's not stylish. I don't know if Double D's the same way, but
you seen my man Double D dress? Come on. I finally got him to shave his head instead of have that one strand of hair wrapped around his head at all times. So, I mean, we've got him to that point. I mean, he's come a long way, my man D Squared.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. But, all right, if you would let us, can we ask you some questions?
I'd be honored.
Okay. Let's start it off like this. Our plan is to go grand scheme of college basketball and then obviously narrow into Ohio State because that's why you're here, is you're one of the first Ohio State believers. But just to kind of kick us off, weird year in college hoops, obviously. Not very many fans. We're in a pandemic, and all the teams that we're used to being good are not. What is your takeaway from this year of college hoops so far?
Well, I think that, look, I look at the teams that are not good. They're young, they're inexperienced, they're physically, mentally, emotionally weak. They don't deal with adversity well. The blue bloods that are normally really good, like, say, Kentucky, their guard play is horrific. So at the end of games, they can defend and they can do enough things to stay in games. But the last 4 minutes of a game, they don't have a big to play through. They don't have a guard that creates. They don't have a ball guard. I call ball guards have to be able to do 2 things. They got to be bucket getters and bucket creators. It's not like John Wall. It's not like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's not like Jamal Murray. It's not like Tyrese Maxey. It's not like any of those dudes are walking through that door. The young players they have are what I call suspects. They have a chance, but they're just not ready. And then they're just not tough enough. I mean, whether you watch Duke last night, Jalen Johnson's supposed to be a lottery pick. He wasn't even in the game at the end of the game. I mean, the guy played the 8th most minutes on their team. So I think some of those teams are struggling from that. Kansas has an older team, but they don't get any easy baskets. They relied on Dotson and relied on Udoka Azubuike, who was like the immovable object. And everything you had to do defensively centered around him. So, that takes care of them. I do think North Carolina's getting better because they have an identity. They can play post to post. They can rebound the ball. I think that their guard play is improving, which is, important. And I think Kerwin Walton has been the savior because he can make enough shots to open up the court. So, I think that veteran teams with substance, teams with shared experiences, teams with toughness, teams with maturity have a huge advantage. And then, you start the season, you didn't have the summer. You didn't have a real preseason. You didn't have scrimmages. You didn't have guarantee games to gain any confidence. So then those guys got thrown out, and it was like, holy crap, this college basketball thing looks a lot easier on TV. And
so,
it's hard.
Go ahead.
That's it.
Well, Gonzaga has been the number 1 team in the country from the first tip to now, and it doesn't seem like they're going to lose. I don't know who could beat them. It doesn't really seem like anyone in the whole country matches up well with them. In your opinion, do you think this is the year they could finally win one?
I think, right now, if you had to pick 2 teams, you'd say Baylor and Gonzaga. Like, I talked to Mark Few last night, and he's really impressed with Baylor. We're all impressed with Baylor. They're so good defensively. Now they're on a pause, which will be over a month, which is going to be really interesting to see what happens. But Baylor's an elite defensive team. I call them a boa constrictor. They don't defend. They suck the wind out of you. And their guard play is phenomenal. And they got depth at the guard play. And Butler and Mitchell have been great. I think after that, there's a drop. I'm not saying those teams can't win. I think that Michigan, if they ever get off their pause, can win. I think you guys can win. Ohio State can win. But Gonzaga offensively is the most aesthetically pleasing because they flow right from transition into their offense. Suggs has been good, but Kispert, to me, and this is going to be a shock to the Big Ten people, I think Kispert's a player of the year.
We have arguments all the time. Obviously, Luka Garza is incredible.
Incredible.
But Iowa is not that good right now. So, I mean, it takes away, if you say, all right, Iowa's a top 5 team, and then you take a guy who's averaging 25 and 10, of course he's the player of the year. Now you're sounding like you don't think he's the player of the year anymore.
This was a month ago. I was leaning towards Kispert. Kispert's so efficient; it's ridiculous. And look, Luka's incredible. If Luka won it, I'd be happy because he came back. Not that he was an NBA player. He works his ass off. He never takes a playoff. He's relentless on the glass. He plays to contact. He's working and running the floor. He's improved his game every single year. But and they miss C.J. Frederick. So, I mean, there's no doubt about it for C.J. Frederick. I mean, they just miss his shot making. But you can't continue to lose. And the one thing about like Kispert every single night, and look, he's got great players to play with. I mean, it's amazing. Yayi and and Suggs and Timmy and Nebhard and Watson. I mean, it's such a beautiful team to watch. But I think Kispert's in the conversation for the Wooden Award.
I think one more team we definitely want to touch on before we get into our Buckeye groove. My alma mater, the Missouri Tigers, we had Coach Martin on the show, and now all of a sudden they're a top 10 team. We think it's correlated. What do you think about the Tigers?
We had Coach Martin on the World's Greatest Podcast this week. We learned all about his leaf blowers and his vacuums. Loves leaf blowers and vacuums. I told him he had the best beard in all of college basketball. It's not even close. It's just not even close. I'd like to see Dockage try to grow a beard. That would be the worst beard in college basketball. I think they're good. I think they fit that, the DNA of a team that can make a deep run. Veteran team, physical, have a low post player who can score it, a wing guy that can score it. At times they can be a little erratic, but I really like them. I think they're really, really tough. Their analytics don't say it, but they have a toughness about them that gets me past all that stuff. I think they're really good, and I think he just has a good way. Coach Martin, he's just a good dude. I mean, I've known him forever, and he's an old school guy with compassion is what he is.
I have a few last questions that I want to ask you before we dive into big time, specifically Ohio State, like Andrew kind of already said. Number one, and this question gets old, and I know you get asked this all the time, but who's your Final Four right now? It's really just who's your other two for the Final Four, and then who's like guilty pleasure team to watch? Maybe a team that maybe they're ranked in the 20s, maybe they're not ranked, maybe it's a mid-major team that you think is just awesome. They're not necessarily going to make a run, but they're just awesome. And then same question for player-wise. Some guy that maybe is a little under the radar that you just think is awesome.
Never ask three questions at once.
I'll remind you. You start with the Final Four one.
Look, I know I'm old and decrepit. I mean, this is a lot for me to process right now. Obviously, those two. And I had Michigan. I think Michigan's a Final Four team, and I've been teetering on actually. My fourth number one, for a while I was thinking Villanova, but I didn't like their toughness against St. John's. I thought they backed down a little bit. At one point I liked Iowa. I've never been on the Alabama train whatsoever. I think I wouldn't call it gimmicky, but just so like 6 nights in a row, or 4 nights in a row, I just don't think that holds up. Like right now I have you guys as my fourth number one today in this moment in time. I think that with not you guys.
Well, you got us as your number one podcast.
Yeah, exactly. As the name of this podcast, and the reason being, there's versatility, and just real quickly, and we'll get into yours. Versatility within the lineup. Like it's guys play to their roles, but they have freedom. You guys have toughness, and look at the bodies on the Ohio State team compared to bodies on a lot of these other guys' teams. To win without CJ was really, really a good thing, and actually helped Justice Suing, I think, a little bit, gain more confidence. The development of players has been phenomenal, development of depth. So right now in this moment in time, I actually have Ohio State as my fourth. I had Virginia there for a while. I didn't like how they just didn't respond against Virginia Tech. Second half, they didn't guard anyone. I want to see more from Jay Huff. And I think Kihei Clark, if you make Kihei Clark a scorer, I think that as good as their offense is and as good as their spacing is and as good as they shoot the ball, I would gap Kihei Clark. I would stay attached to Huff and Hauser and Murphy when he's in the game. And I think you could really – and then when Beekman comes in, you can really gap him. And I think they're not going to be as effective offensively. So right now, I'm going to put the curse on Ohio State. Coach Holtman did not get the World's Greatest Podcast bump because after he was on our podcast, he lost, and he's probably not talking to me anymore.
That's okay. We had Dockage on last year when they were the number 2 team in the country, and we were like, Andrew, like, is this the best team like you've ever been around? And he was saying all these great things and blah blah blah, and then they lost to Minnesota the next night. So,
and that's what's going to happen in that league.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll spare you the other two.
You've got more questions.
I mean, I'll spare you the other two. Maybe I'll ask.
Just real quickly. I do like to watch Drake because.
So you remember them? Good. You remember the questions.
But I'll tell you, I'm all in on the Big Ten. To me, is the best coached, best scouted, most best executing conference in college basketball. I mean, I don't even think it's close. I mean, I really believe that it's the games. You watch those games, and they are just, as a league, my favorite team to watch is that league because the basketball is just better. It really is. It's better. I never find myself going, "Oh, this is unwatchable." I mean, it's every single night. The games are really fun to watch. So I mean, to me, it's the league. It's the league. It's the competitiveness. And the Big 12. Look, the Big 12's got 7 teams. 7 of their 10 teams are going to go to the NCAA tournament. I mean, I really believe 17 teams from which is basically half of the at-large teams are going to go from those two conferences. I mean, I mean, it's just the way it is. Another team I like to watch, although they've been a little more erratic, is Creighton. They play with really good flow, really good spacing. I think they got a lot more junkyard dog in them than people realize. They got a little more of an edge in them than people realize. And I love watching Jalen Suggs. I just think he's a tough son of a bitch. I think he's competitive. He's got a little Jason Kidd in his game. He sees stuff early. He's competitive. He's fit in. And, like, even watching him the other day against BYU the other night, like, he's – speaking of Mark, I spoke to Mark for a long time yesterday. He's so coachable that he wants to get better. Like, he made a play that not a lot of people would notice. I thought it was, like, a great play. He made a back cut off a little kind of jump stop penetration that Nebhard made in the I think it was the second half. His defender just turned his head. He didn't hesitate once. Once that guy turned his head, bam, he went back door. Nebhard dropped the dime. It was a layup. Like, that's a cool play. Then I still remember the play when he got hurt in the West Virginia game. He convinces Mark to come back in the game. He comes off that high ball screen with his size, looks off the wing and throws that thing right over the top to Timmy for a roll. I mean, like, he's just got a maturity to his game that, I think is really special. He reminds me of Jason Kidd, but he's got the presence, because it's more maybe embedded in my mind, of a Jalen Brunson.
Oh, we know Jalen Brunson. We know Jalen Brunson pretty well in this show, and I agree. Suggs is a gamer. He's just, I mean, as competitive as it gets, clearly, and, like, he's just a stud. Like, there's nothing that he doesn't, like, he's shown every facet of his game. Great passer, great rebounder, and can score when he needs to in every single phase of the game. I mean, he's incredible. It's, like, almost unfortunate that he's on a West Coast team where you can't watch him every single night because the games are starting.
What the hell are you doing that you can't watch him every single night?
I mean, I would love basketball to be my full-time job, but it's not quite there yet.
Sleep's overrated. You young people don't understand. Sleep's overrated.
So my favorite player to watch is Finger Gun Zed Key, because when he gets in the game, it's going to be exciting. How important do you think it's been?
He's gotten better, by the way.
He's gotten a lot better
every time he gets out there.
Well, my question is how important, and the answer is going to be really important, but I want you to talk about it as a coach. How important is it for this Ohio State team, if they want to make a deep run, that the veterans keep playing well and the young guys keep contributing as much as they have also?
Yeah, you want to develop your bench. You want to develop your bench for injury. You want to develop your bench because of a positive test or a contact trace. It gives you more flexibility and versatility. And by the way, that guy's different than anyone else in your roster. Because he's, I don't know, what is he, 6'9", almost 6'10". I mean, he looks
like 6'8". He's the only back to the basket guy.
Yeah, he has a different role than everyone else. And you could play him with EJ, which is really good. So, I mean, I think he's really important. And I just think that when you go to your bench, and this is something I learned from Coach Holland when I was assistant at Virginia. You got to do one of two things. You've either got to change the dynamic of what you're doing, and that person kind of changes who you are for a moment, or it's a mistake-free player. And he changes kind of your look a little bit, which I think is really good because all the other guys that come in, and I said this, I think yesterday for a Sports Center hit. Like the thing that Ohio State does, they got guys that embrace their role and champion their roles and don't bitch about it. Like, this is what I do well, coach. This is what coach wants. This is what helps our team win. And I'm going to go and I'm just going to kick ass and do this. And I'm going to do it at a high level. And then, some nights I'm going to play a bunch like the other night. EJ gets 7 points, 4 other guys score double figures. Kyle gets 18. I mean, the Rutgers game, I talked to the Rutgers coaches after you guys whooped their ass. And, they just said, we didn't have anyone close to being able to bang with Kyle Young. He said it was like a joke. He said he just beat the shit out of us. I mean, yet he's shooting ball to the three-point line, which is, he's moved that out. And you could see how, look, he just wants to win. And that's a cool, thing to have. And, let's face it, you guys, who transferred last year? You had a guy transfer out.
Luther Muhammad.
Yeah, addition by subtraction. Nothing against him, but you know what? You've got a tighter group. Like, especially this year, you've got to trust your teammates and keep your circle tight. Because if you don't trust your teammates and to do the right thing, especially when you're not there, then it impacts. So you guys got rid of DJ and Luther, and you became a better team. Nothing against them. I'm sure, I don't know the guys. I mean, I thought Carton, the ball got stuck in his hands. The ball didn't move. He probably a talented guy, but not for the way coach wants to play winning basketball.
I think Coach Holtman's, and you tested on it, Coach Holtman's greatest attribute as a coach, being a former player of his, is the way that he gets people to buy in. And as you know, buying in that's the end all be all, because you can be a less talented team with less talented players and still win games because you are simply all in it together. And the fact that that's never more true than with this team, because they've nobody playing over 6'8", and in the Big Ten, it's hard to win games like that. Yet we're playing better than anyone else. Why is that? Well, we're the tougher, more together team. And that's just, and that's all back to Coach Holtman. It's exactly what you said. He always preached to be a superstar in your role. And it's so evident that that's happening this year. And it's, as a fan, not even as a former player, it makes this team so easy to root for.
Yeah. You know what you just learned there, Joey?
What's that? You
listen to me, you usually usually comes out right.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Andrew, he's learning, Andrew. He's learning.
Talk about superstar in your role. That was what I had framed in my bedroom my whole entire life, was to be a superstar in my role. And that's why I wanted to ask you what kind of bench player you thought I was coming off the bench. Did I change the game, or was I mistake-free? I was interested to hear your thoughts on that. But then you started talking about superstar in your role, and I was like, okay, never mind. He's doing the whole, actually giving us some numbers.
Well, here's the thing, big boy. See, I figured that by the time that you got in the game, in that role, it was just not to crap your pants and throw the ball to the right color uniform. So I would think you embraced that role tremendously. Secondly, when they started chanting your name, because I know you're a cult figure because you've told me that 4,000 times, that, you know what, the adrenaline rush of the crowd, of the they were out of control, and everyone wanted to make sure you got a shot.
You're not wrong. You're a smart guy. You've been around hoops. You get it. I want you, next time you talk to Holtman, not on the record, off the record, ask him what type of basketball player I was, if I was a good player or not, because you'll be surprised. Obviously I didn't get there by accident, but I was going in there and I was contributing. I don't know if you know, I started a game. I started a second half at Purdue. A second half. That's more impressive than starting the game, right?
It's because everyone starts senior night, so that is impressive.
Hold on. But do they run a play? Do they run a play for that guy every time? No. They ran a play for me.
I speak to Coach. I'm gonna get the full scouting report on it.
Please,
I might get the scouting report. I might post it on Twitter.
Please do. My senior year, Coach, and we had Jordan Bohannon on last week before the Iowa game. My senior year, going to Iowa, guess who was on the scouting report?
You.
Me, because I had 3 points and 2 assists the night before.
Like in today's technological world, like it used to be, if you got your name. I grew up in New York. There was a newspaper called Newsday on Long Island. If you got your name in Newsday, like for the guys that didn't play in the games, but like we were trying to win by enough so we could get those guys' names in Newsday. Today, it's getting it on one of those prefabbed scouting reports.
Yep. That's what Scooney used to always say that. He would Scooney Penn for everyone. Obviously, if you know another Scooney, that's remarkable because I don't know another Scooney. But Scooney would always yell, "Go ahead, get your name in the paper!" every time. In practice, in games, it didn't matter. Whenever I was on the court, he's yelling, "Joey, go ahead, get your name in the paper."
Well, here's the question I got for you, Joey. So, like, if you made the scouting report for Iowa, all right, and usually part of the scouting report is, best free throw shooters, best 3-point shooters, and then, if it has you, it has your name, and underneath it says, a lot of guys like compare your game to someone, like so that you know how to guard you, like some guy's a Corver, which means we're going to guard a Corver.
Reddick, we call them Reddicks.
Yeah, all right. So I want to know, like when the scouting report on you came out, what was the comp?
Here's what I would say. I would imagine that the Iowa coaches.
Say LeBron. I'd say LeBron.
If we're being realistic, the Iowa coaches, the last thing they need to worry about in terms of defense is guarding me. They got bigger problems than that, right? If we're being honest. But I would imagine that they would say, all right, we're going to let this short white kid beat us. If he makes a couple shots, then we guard him like a Reddick or a Corver. And his player comparison is Jordan Bohannon.
I thought it would be Dockich.
Here's another funny story, and Andrew hates this story. So we differed a lot because Andrew was great on defense. I was not good on defense. I was great on offense, and Andrew was exactly what you said. Comes off the bench, ball mover, energy mover, not going to make mistake, great passer, ran the team. But he's not a huge threat, and he'll be the first person to say that. My difference was I could have been a huge offensive threat just because I was a really good shooter. But all this to say, Andrew was, he's on scout team as a GA, and he's practicing, and he's shooting. He's around basketball all the time. I didn't touch a ball for like 9 months when I went home because, I was taking a break. That's just, I was done with this chapter of life. I was on to, I was playing golf, not basketball. And when I came back to Ohio State, I said, come on, Andrew, let's have a shooting contest for old time's sake. And I went 5 for 5, and he went 2 for 5, and he will never challenge me to a shooting contest again.
Oh, I might have to text my man D Squared on this one. Go, if you're not a good shooter, bad schedule. It's like when Dockich and I play golf. I mean, like Dan got me the first time, but the last time I had one of my great comebacks of all time, and he ended up walking into the lake. It's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is. And Dan Dockich was always my biggest fan, like always. When he was calling games, if I went in the game, he would look at Benetti and go, "Hey, is Joey shooting 3 or 4 times tonight?" That type of deal. And he, one time, he went out of his way, obviously, to compliment me, which is very cool because obviously I'm not getting in that much, so that matters. There's one game, my favorite Dockich memory is I'm watching Cincinnati versus Xavier in my apartment my senior year of college. I'm probably playing some sort of video game instead of doing homework, as all seniors do. And I'm watching the crosstown shootout. It's a blowout. The Cincinnati walk-ons go in. And he goes, "You know who the most fun walk-on is in the country? Joey Lane at Ohio State," and starts talking about me in that game. And ever since, I was already sold before, but, I know he's got my back, and he would choose me over Andrew. Maybe. I might be the only guy in a shooting contest that he would choose.
D Squared is the best. It's my guy.
No doubt.
I'm gonna reel us back into the current Buckeyes for a second.
Yeah, sorry. You know you get me on that track, I'll go forever.
Hey,
So.
this boy's easy to wind up. What do you got, Andrew?
I'm going to reel you back in. The schedule, all right, Indiana, Penn State, those should be dubs, all right? So then you got 2 more wins for your
Indiana's
final.
playing pretty well.
Yeah, Coach,
Should be dubs. Should be dubs.
Our track record with Indiana is pretty darn good, unfortunately. That's what scares me. It's like we're due for one.
They got a big one against Northwestern tonight, right?
Yeah, it's like a rock fight. I don't know.
Isn't it over?
Go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
Wait, isn't the game over?
Yeah, I probably – it was – it's in double overtime.
It's 70-70 in double overtime.
It was 23-20 at halftime. I thought it was going to be first to 50 wins.
If they lose that game, Dan always says that forever playing at Northwestern has been very difficult for Indiana, even back to his days.
No, I grew up going to Northwestern games, and I saw some crazy upsets. Like, yeah. We were there when they beat Purdue. We were there when they beat Michigan State. It's like, it's hard because you go from playing in a 19,000-seat arena to like a high school gym, a glorified high school gym. Sometimes it's hard, like it's hard to get up for it, which is crazy. I love playing there. But anyway, sorry. Hopefully we beat Indiana. Hopefully we beat Penn State. Got to take.
I'm changing my question. We hit the Big Ten tournament. What's the biggest threat to Ohio State in the Big Ten?
I'd go even further out. Now that it's Indianapolis, I can see them playing it. If I was Ohio State, I'm not sure I'd even play in the Big Ten tournament, but that's another story. I know they will. You got to have 7 negative tests before getting to the NCAA tournament. That's something to really, really consider. I think Illinois is playing really well right now. They got the Iowa win. They got they beat Penn State. They beat Iowa. They beat Indiana. And they have one other win in their last 4. Look,
Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin. Those are 4 really, really good wins. DeSumo and Coburn have been really good. Frazier's playing like a senior should play and is fiercely competitive. Williams has been good. Curbello's kind of, hit or miss as a freshman, as is Miller. But they're guarding better. I mean, when they were losing early, like we had a like it, love it, or leave it segment on game day, and I said I'm leaving it, but I can always change my mind once they guard again because they were giving up about 81 points a game in their losses. They're defending better now. They seem like they're really on the same page, and the upperclassmen have kind of taken over the team. Early in the season, Miller and Curbello they had bigger roles. I mean, really, to be honest with you. I would think those 2. I think Illinois is definitely a threat. I even think Wisconsin's different because the style of play, you never know. But there's something not right with Wisconsin right now.
Sorry, I'll interject and agree with you. I don't see it from them. I was a big fan at the beginning of the year. I don't see it.
Right. It's something wrong between they're struggling figuring out which big guys and they're not playing well, and it seems like Potter and Reavers just there's something not right, and I can tell when a team is just not right. I mean, I want to see Iowa when C.J. Frederick gets back. I want to see what they look any different. Look, I didn't think they were terrible the other night defensively. I think that people are making it hard. So like Izzo said, we're going to let Luka Garza play one-on-one down in the post with him. We're going to take away the 3-point shots early. So they stayed home. Now, if they blow the whistle, you have no chance because he's going to flail his arms. He's like I coached against Tyler Hansbrough. I mean, you can play perfect defense, and the guy's still going to shoot 12 free throws. Just the way it is. But I think Illinois is really intriguing me right now. And the other team that's intriguing me because it's similar, I think, is Rutgers. I'm a big Rutgers fan. I think Harper's a tough matchup. I think Gio is a clutch player. I think Johnson's getting better. I think there's a McConnell that they just got healthy. He adds a guy with some versatility and selfishness. They've got depth. They've got a toughness about them, a similar toughness. And those guys are another team that plays to the best team is Michigan. But I can't – it's been so long since I've seen Michigan.
He's got to forget it for now. Yeah.
I've got to see if they play Saturday. I've got to see how they play. I've got to see their legs. I've got to see their energy. I got to see they have pretty they execute at a high level. What's their timing going to be like? Are they going to be lured off the ball? I mean, I talked to Coach Izzo and Tom said that, when they got done off their paws, the hardest thing was that guys they wanted to play hard. They wanted to play. They just didn't have it in them. They just didn't. They wanted to bring it out, and they just didn't have it in them. And I think that's going to be a concern for them. I like, as opposed to Baylor. Baylor's going to play 7 games in 15 days, so they're going to play through it to get back. Where if Michigan doesn't play any makeup games, and maybe they'd be better off playing like 3 games in 7 days and just getting it going again. So I'm interested to see how they do. I mean, I thought Michigan was playing at an incredible high level before they went down.
Are you hearing rumblings that locks for the tournament are going to pull out of their conference tournaments?
I think some could. Some could. It all depends on league bylaws. But here's the thing: the NCAA said you got to play 13 games. All right, you play 13 games. If a athletic department said, and I'm not saying I've heard this, but an athletic department said, you know what, for the health and well-being of our team, we don't feel comfortable prior to the NCAA tournament putting them in an environment. We're going to play 4 games potentially in 4 days, 60 teams, 12 officials, be in a hotel for that many more days, up and down elevators, touching this, touching that. We'd rather just get to Indianapolis and basically tighten up our bubble. I mean, do you argue with that? Or, you know what, a coach could say, you know what, I'm really worried. We have a couple of guys, they're not feeling that well. They're testing negative, but I just want to be ultra conservative. I don't think it's best for us to go play in a tournament. If you're a team that has a chance to win it all, would you risk? Well, let me ask you, Joe, this is a real simple question. Would you rather play in the Big Ten Conference tournament, or would you rather play in the NCAA tournament if you had your choice?
Depends on a couple things, but there's nothing like playing in the NCAA tournament. Nothing like it. So I don't know how I would feel as a player. I would.
You got to put it to your players.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, and it's not the same, but I remember my freshman year or sophomore year, they asked us, "Do you want to play in the NIT?" And it's not the same, but it's similar in terms of it's up to you if you want to play. It's a player's decision, and if you got guys that are saying no to that and no to wanting to play, that just brings up a whole different argument, just in terms of it's such a bizarre scenario. As a player, I would say I'd like to play in every single game I can, especially looking back on it. I would give anything to play another game right now, but as a coach, if you're guaranteed to be in the NCAA tournament, why would you risk anything at all? It just doesn't make any sense unless you're – it's the hardest decision.
Unless your players want to play. To me, you got to put it to your players, and then you got to make a decision. But, I mean, to me, there are 3 tournaments in Las Vegas, all right? The West Coast Conference, the Mountain West, and the PAC. So let me ask you, you can't create an isolation bubble in Las Vegas. If you're West Coast Conference, you're playing at the Orleans, you're staying at the Orleans. You're going up and down elevators. You're walking through the lobby to get to the arena. Mark Few? Am I Mark Few? You think I want to do that?
No chance. Gonzaga that's the perfect example of no chance you should play in it. You're a lock. It doesn't prove anything by winning that conference tournament, and you're playing in Las Vegas. That makes no sense. It's so weird to me to think that Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio State would not play in the Big Ten tournament. That's just crazy to think about, but it might be what makes sense.
I think the reason they're going to Indianapolis is that exact reason.
Then you stay there forever.
You got one right there. You're just locking it down, man.
What do
about school?
If you're a coach in whatever scenario,
all classes are on Zoom, man.
I'm just kidding.
What are you doing, Coach? If you're putting yourself in any scenario you want, are you ultimately putting it up to the players? Yes, but if you have to make the decision, what are you doing?
If I'm Ohio State, if I'm Michigan, if I'm Baylor, if I'm Villanova, I love conference tournaments. I coached in the ACC tournament. I coached in the Big West tournament. I coached in the Big East tournament, Conference USA. I loved conference tournaments. Didn't like playing in Conference USA when I had to play Huggies team though, and Kenya Martin. That wasn't that much fun. I would ask our administration if we could opt out. And I know Billis and I disagree with this, and I respect his opinion. But you start the season, this uncommon season, with the idea, I hope we can play 13 games. And then you still have a goal to try to compete and win a national championship. I just think about a month from now, how we felt a year ago when the tournament was taken away from us. I don't know if I could handle and looking my players in the eye and say, so-and-so had a positive, we're out because contact tracing. It would be devastating to me. And I think, it would be, you have this incredible journey to get to the NCAA tournament. Everything you do is to get to the NCAA tournament. And this is an uncommon time. I'm a big proponent of conference championships, but we're in a pandemic. We're in a pandemic with a new variant, which is more contagious. Why risk it? That's me.
No arguing that point, without a doubt.
All right, Andrew.
I'm gonna wrap this up on a positive note. All right, we're a few weeks away from March. March means postseason basketball. Let's hear the thing you're most excited about, after we've gone now 2 years without postseason basketball.
It sounds crazy. I want to hear the theme song for the tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, we didn't get it. I want to see that first ball go up to start the NCAA tournament. And I don't care if there's people in the stands this year or not. And I want to get through the tournament with everyone healthy. I think that's the biggest thing.
What comes after the tournament is another tournament, one that the three of us are also heavily involved in.
Oh, TBT, baby. Let's do it.
TBT. We got to hear, because our friends / bosses over at TBT would be mad if we didn't ask a TBT question. Which of these seniors this year, and we say Luka Garza, but which of these seniors do you think should go play TBT right away?
Oh, man, I'd love to see Luka Garza in the TBT. Which seniors? I'm not just going to throw something out here. I want to give a good senior that would be impactful to the TBT. I'd have to stay. Well, it doesn't have to be a senior, because what if a guy just puts his name in a draft?
Absolutely.
True.
That's
true.
Cool.
First of all, I'd like to see for any of those guys that are going to go into the NBA G League deal, they should have a team in the TBT.
Absolutely.
That would be a great dose of reality, because they get their ass whooped and then they realize this shit is hard. So that's first and foremost. A player I would like to see in the TBT. This is a really good question right here.
Good question.
You're stalling. You're stalling. We ask good questions all the time. That's a stalling tactic.
I am asking, because I don't want to just throw a name out. Want to just throw a name out to throw a name out? I'd like to see Villanova have a team and Colin Gillespie to put his name in.
Ooh, that's good.
And that would be a good one. Someone that people would. Arizona State have a team and Remy Martin play in it, because they sure can't win a game the way they are right now. I'd like to see
Josh Christopher could play on that team too.
Well, he won't pass the ball to Remy Martin though. So that's the problem with their team. I'll tell you what. I'd like to see kind of what Andrew's idea was a cool idea with the Big Ten All-Star team. The problem is, a lot of these, guys like, say with Xavier Tillman or Cassius and those guys, they're not. Here's my question: is Kraft making a comeback?
Oh yeah, he's there, 100%. And I haven't talked to him about it, but how do you say no to your former teammates saying, "Come on, bro, you haven't played basketball in a year. Can you just get in shape for 2 weeks and play with us?" Like, he's not going to say no. He's dying to get back out there.
Oh, but isn't he in medical? I mean, like.
Oh yeah, he's in medical school. He's got the white coat, everything. He's fully in.
He's got to log in on Canvas and tells teachers he needs a few days off.
Yeah, excuse me, professor. I have a basketball tournament this weekend. He'll be like, "What is this, 6th grade?" No, it's the TBT. Read a book.
Read a book. I'm trying to think if there's an ACC player even that fits in that mold. I mean, like
Garrison Brooks.
Garrison Brooks would be good. MJ Walker to start a Florida State team. Ooh.
Florida State would have a fantastic team, and there would be 70 of them, and they would play all of them.
Yeah, I mean they would be no joke. I'd also like to see a team, Virginia guys that aren't in the NBA would be an interesting thing. Just for no other reason, I'd like to see those Virginia guys chucking and ducking.
Yep. and trying to play pack line defense in the TBT, and
guys like raining threes.
What about and I'm manifesting this, I'm making this happen, a Missouri team where the seniors, the Smith brothers, Tillman, they call up Cassius Robertson. All of a sudden, you got a team with seniors with experience, like the Dayton team,
and you got 16 in college basketball.
I want to see Huggy Bear coaching the TBT. That's what I want.
Yep. We're working on that. As
we have a lot of pull, and we're working on
it. That would be fun. That would be.
What about you? Why don't you coach?
Me, because I want to get paid for doing broadcasts.
True.
I got a wedding to pay for this summer.
Yeah, that's a terrible answer.
You know what I mean? No, you never know. Some guys wanted me to coach. I'd like to see Virginia Tech put a team in and have Jermon Gordon, one of my former players, coach it. He'd get him to play hard as hell.
You think you'd have any bias if that happened?
Who, me? If my former guys were on, there's no doubt about it. I would. I love this.
What if I came out of retirement and put together a team? Would you coach?
Would I coach? See what kind of recruiter you are.
Oh,
you can't. First of all, you can't do that because you got to be. That's your boy. You're going to go against your boys?
No, of course not. But also, coach, I'm in sales. The only thing I can do is recruit. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Andrew, hey, by the way, general manager Dockage. That man.
If it was even possible. General manager Dockage is worse than the player Andrew Dockage. If you can even.
General manager Dockage, sure. That's like that. What was that team last year? Eberlin Drive that lost in the first round. I mean, you got to have some role dudes.
Somebody, anybody,
anyone going to actually pass the ball.
Coach, we appreciate your time as always. You have given us more time than we expected, or that we
deserve.
Yeah, deserved is a better word.
When are we coming back on your show?
Oh, we're going to have you back on, but here's the deal. The next time I do this show, all right, it's got to be, drive the lane with.
Well, everything we do is co-hosted by Andrew Zolden and Joey.
I think he's onto something. I like it.
Andrew, right? With. You can get top billing. But it's. We got to have a little, camaraderie.
Well, it's on my network that I run, so there's at least that.
All right.
Media Network.
The Zedia Network, which is the Zolden Media Network, which is my network. So my name's on there.
All right, there we go. All right, I feel better.
Yeah, we used to in our early days. Zolden would sometimes sneak it in and be like, "Welcome back to Drive the Zolden."
I like it. All right, boys, be safe.
You too.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye, guys.